You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from
T. Barnes.
an inmate at a federal prison. This call is being recorded and is subject to monitoring. Hang up to decline the call or to accept, dial 5 now. If you wish to block any future calls.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Barnes. Welcome back.
How you doing? Thank you. Glad to be
I'm
back.
very well. Very well. Okay, so we were talking about youth violence, and now maybe we could move on and talk about the school shootings in America. My understanding is that they have risen dramatically with many deaths and a lot of wounded. So, in your opinion, what's creating this rise in school shootings?
Well, my opinion with these school shootings in the last, say, 49 years, we have had 1,300 school shootings. The highest number in a year was last year was 97. That's way too much. Our prisons, our schools are starting to look like prisons when you walk in the door, and that's not right. So my opinion really comes down to these shootings is these kids are going to school and they're being bullied a lot, and a lot of them don't report this to their mothers or their fathers, and some of these kids, if you really look at it, have some kind of mental illness in their background, and they're not getting the proper training or schooling in these places, and they're being picked on. For instance, the Columbine massacre 20 years ago, this kid Harrison Keeble, these kids was bullied, they was picked on, they was thrown stuff,
This call is from a federal prison.
they was throwing things on them, calling them homophobic names, and that's just unacceptable in school.
Yeah, I agree. I think that also there's people are putting bad behaviour, titling it bad behaviour when there is an underlying issue that they're not seeing, and some people, some teachers have had the training to be teachers, but they just don't have. Sometimes they're just not using logical common sense to see a problem. One of the things I witnessed this side, especially when my son was in school, was that they tend to argue with the children rather than listen to them. You don't argue with a child. You're just not going to get anywhere. Do you think that's the same your side? Do you think that they're not listening?
I'm like you. When I was going to school back in the day, if a child was having problem keeping up with the next student or hear any kind of issue, he will get that one-on-one tutoring, because he needs that. Every child cannot be as fast or quick as the next child to learn, and this is where the problem has come in America. It became a joke with these children because he's a little slower. He's not fortunate enough as you to have this or to wear this, and then they become the laughing stock of the class. And then everybody else starting to follow the leader. They already feeling a little down because they can't learn as quick as the next person. They're picked on because they can't wear this and they can't wear that because their parents just can't afford it. And this takes a toll on these children, and it go on for years and years and years. And it gets out of hand after that with these children.
I'm just curious as to how you see. How does it go from a child, a young adult, being bullied in school to them actually picking up that gun and deciding that they're going to go in and do a shooting? How did it move to that step?
Now, from my research and me studying the Columbine shooting and the most recent one down in Parkland, Florida, I'm not too far from there. This kid Cruz that actually did these shootings, this kid been flagged for years. He been having problems in school. He been having mental issues. He been seen by doctors that was saying he was all right to be in school. Then all the way up until he did these heinous crimes, he was on the internet. He was posting about he's going to make himself famous. He's going to shoot up a school. He's going to do this. And the FBI in that county dropped the ball on this kid because they were sending in videotapes of him with all these weapons and all these quotes and things that he was aiming towards going in these schools to get these kids. And he was mentally ill.
Yeah. Do you think that but you can't say that everyone that's participated in this kind of shooting has mental illness, or do you think they do? I don't think they all have a mental illness. I think some of it is the anger that you're talking about.
Yes.
That they're isolated, that they're humiliated. So who do we have to, who would you put the blame on? The bully or the victim that turns into the bully, if you like?
Now, look at it this way. If you can look back on all of these school shootings, which have been 1,300, I might have every school shooting, the data from all of these schools. Now, if you look at the persons that participated in these shootings, these kids, most of these kids were isolated. They was loners. They was the bullying victims, and kids stayed on these children. They just beat these children down. Now, this where it comes at in the home. A parent should know what's going on with their child in school. For instance, when that child come home, the first thing that parent should ask that child, how was he or she day in school?
Yeah.
Is it anything that we need to talk about? Do you have homework? Your homework have to be done. And if you a parent, I'm a parent, I know if my child come home from school, I know who my child was when he left out this house. And when he come in this house or she, I know something's wrong with my child if she's having these kind of problems. Because
This call is from a federal prison.
Your child should be comfortable enough to talk to you about anything because you are that child's caretaker.
Exactly, and I think that one of the first signs is that the anger that the child feels is always directed at the parents. They're angry with you first because they don't know where else to let that anger out. So if your child's angry with you, then there's a problem.
A big problem. Because then she or he can block anything, even in the school system. These teachers that's teaching, they should know their students. They should know their students. But we have a big problem when it comes to that, too, because the classrooms are overcrowded. How can you know 30, 35 children? You push them through.
It's the same. You couldn't know 35 colleagues at work in that way. But when you're dealing with younger minds, then you have a responsibility to make sure that there's adequate people there to reach each one. I agree with that. Family values and the community spirit are usually what's used to build children up. And back in the day, that was a big part. We all watched our neighbours' children. We all parented each other's children. How do we bring those values back?
Well, how I would bring these values back, I would talk to my child, and I would have my child confident enough. If I'm not home, if I'm working, I'm going to have my child comfortable enough to go to the neighbor. If he or she's having a problem, we have to get our neighborhood back involved with these children. And they have to be willing enough, if this child is having a problem, I'm going to bring this child in here, I'm going to have a talk with them, I'm going to work this problem out until a parent come home. And we have got away from that. It's like they just turn the other cheek on these children. They know this child having a problem. The first thing most of them will say, that's not my child. And that's not right.
Yes, I agree. I also think that the bullying now is exploded due to social media. Children are now not only bullied in person, but they're bullied online. And it can be a more vicious form of bullying, because they can, the way that they create these posts, the way that they can send these text messaging 24 hours, they can be constantly bullying kids. Do you think that there should be more parental control over the child having access to cell phones?
Of course. And this is another thing that we have to do as parents. We need to take these websites serious. We need to know what our child is on. We need to limit our child from different sites. That's why I said we need to know our children. Your child needs to be comfortable enough to let you know what's going on in their life. And half of the stuff that's on the internet is destroying these children, from the video games to these verbal bullying acts that they're doing and everything. We need to know what our child is using, and we don't.
No, and back when we were young, video games and movies and TV were all age restricted. The internet is just wide open. It's so easy for these kids to access sites that will encourage this anger rather than discourage it. They can research guns, and they can research other cases where schools have had shootings, and they can learn. It's a problem that I don't think's been addressed properly, and I'm not sure how that would work. But how do you think, if we had leaders in the community, such as yourself, you come home and so now you're going to go to the community centre and you're going to bring your programs with you, but you're going to change them with the children in the community rather than the ones that are in the prison. Now, that's what's missing. Male role models. A real man in the community as a role model is missing from these kids' lives. Is that due to the high incarceration rate?
That has a big part of it. And me, myself, this is my mission. I want to help. But the first thing I want to explain to a child, be more comfortable with your parents. Your parents is the best role model, the best civil rights leader, the best president in the world to you first.
Yeah.
Be comfortable dealing with your parents. I'm going to do everything I can do because I'm going to give them all the choices and mistakes I did, and that's what I got away from, is the values and principles that I was taught. And I was taught, any problems, you come see me first. And if I can't handle your problems, then we'll go elsewhere. I didn't do that. That's why I spent 30-something years in prison.
Yeah. And I think we need to address the fact quickly that not every young child or teenager has good parents. Parenting itself is sadly it's just missing. Again, parents are more concerned with their relationship, their internet profiles. If there's not a good parent, then who can they go to?
That's when you come to people like me. That's when I can guide them to the necessary help, the groups, the workshops, the training, and everything else. That's when we're their role models, if they don't have them parents to do that.